Hey everybody, welcome to the Marino Show. For this episode, we are on location here in downtown Austin at the Speakeasy for the Spazmatics show, and we're going to hear from lead singer Zack Weber. What was that? Oh God, I'm going to die. I got to get this on camera. No! So excited to have my guest today, Zack Weber with the Spazmatics, lead singer. I usually see you, just full transparency here, in the gym.
That's right.
But we look a little different in street clothes, I guess.
We had joked earlier that we're not used to seeing each other outside of panting and sweating around each other, and then we clarified.
And then we had to clarify that, yes. But Zack, it's great to kind of be able to see you like outside of the gym and here in your element. We're at the Speakeasy in downtown Austin. So first of all, for those who haven't seen the Spazmatics, very popular group here in the Austin area, tell our viewers like what they can expect if they come to one of your shows.
So the Spazmatics is, we're an 80s tribute band, so we sort of dress a little like Revenge of the Nerds. I wear a neck brace, our bass player wears a helmet, our drummer wears a pinwheel cap, and our guitar player is like a ping pong champion. And so we play the best of the worst of the 80s, so like Take On Me, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, Never Gonna Give You Up, all the way to like, you know, some Michael Jackson, some hair metal stuff. We dip into the 70s and the 90s a little bit. So there's comedy skits, so it's like stand-up comedy with, 80s, and all the songs are choreographed with, simple choreography that children and drunk people can do whilst at the show. So that's pretty much it, yeah.
How long have you been involved with Spazmatics, and how did you get involved with the group?
Well, the Spazmatics has been around since 2004. I got involved in 2011 and sort of took the wheel around then, and yeah, I mean, it's been going ever since. Like you said, we're in Speakeasy right now, which is where we play every single Wednesday in Austin, Texas. And so since 2004, February 2004, we've been playing every single Wednesday in downtown Austin. And so, yeah, so it's been a tradition that's been going on for a long time, and we hope to keep it going on. But we play all over Texas. We do 200 plus shows a year, and the Spazmatics is actually a few years back. It was it's like a franchise, so it's kind of like a chain group. So we're the Texas Spazmatics. We do play outside of Texas, but there's also other parts of the United States where they have a Spazmatics that does the show, and it's a little unique towards each group across the U.S. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Are there any like songs that you just love to perform? I mean, there's so many great songs from the 80s and also cheesy songs from the 80s, which I'm sure
it's a lot of cheesy songs. Really easy to write jokes about songs from the 80s. I always say that my favorite song to sing is the last one. No, but I don't know. I like the upbeat stuff. I mean, Sweet Child of Mine, Welcome to the Jungle. We'll do like Beat It by Michael Jackson. Footloose, for some reason, is always a fun one, just because everyone generally gets out and starts dancing. Love Shack, stuff like that. Just the high energy stuff is what I really enjoy doing, because the high energy brings everybody out onto the dance floor and it turns into a party. And I would say most of our audience will come dressed in 80s garb or in nerd garb. And it's a wide range. I mean, we'll do some all ages shows where there'll be a lot of kids, and it's cute to see kids come dressed as the different characters in the band. All the way up to there was a fellow last week here at Speakeasy on Wednesday night that was celebrating his 80th birthday. So I mean, it's a wide range. We sort of have two shows, one that caters to all ages, and then another one that doesn't. That's funnier in my opinion.
It's more of the after hours crowd.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot easier to write jokes that are inappropriate than ones that are not inappropriate. So
yeah. So before you got with Spazmatics, you yourself were always involved in music, right? Like, how did you get into the world of music? Were you involved in like high school before that? When did your love first start for the music industry in general?
Yeah, so I started musical theater, and so that was sort of my approach when I sort of took the keys for the Spazmatics. There was a lot of elements in it that they were sort of implementing beforehand. But I've always been into stand-up comedy, and I've been doing musical theater, community theater, and everything else since probably like 8 or 9 years old. So I took dance lessons, acting lessons. I studied music theory, guitar lessons. So ever since I was probably 9 years old. So and I joined different choirs in and outside of schools, community theater, all that stuff. So I've always been really, really interested in the musical theater side of things. I would see a lot of bands that would go and they would just kind of play music live, but I always felt like it was missing like a show aspect. Like, why are we here watching you? What's this shtick? And I always feel like there needs to be like a shtick. And so, for me growing up watching Jim Carrey was always one of my idols, and so doing what we do, where we come out, we dress the way we do, it sort of disarms a lot of people to where they can like let their hair down and dance, and like, you're not going to look like bigger idiots than us, so you might as well just come out onto the dance floor and have fun. So I started, in my single digit years with all that, and then around age 14, I got recruited to work for Disney, the radio side. So I was like a talent. So I would go out and do live events and be live on the radio, like 14, 15, and 16. This is back in Missouri. And then around 16 is when I got discovered by someone who's a friend now, but they were a tour manager for John Mayer and Maroon 5, and they brought me out on that tour, and then I recorded an album with some of those guys and signed to a record label and moved to Manhattan. And then I used to work in the jingle industry, so I used to write music for commercials in radio and TV, all the songs that nobody wants to hear because it's part of a commercial. But so, and that was a fun experience. And so I write my own music. I put out my own records. It's all under my name, Zack Weber. But, as of the last 10 to 15 years, I've been so busy with Spazmatics. I think the last time I released a record was 2020, just because it was 2020 and everybody had a lot of time on their hands. So, but at the moment, we were kind of talking before the cameras came on that I'm working on some new music now and hopefully going to put it out. It'll be a lot more mellowy, loungy type of stuff, just because the last thing I want to do when I have a couple days off is anything closely, related to Spazmatics and high energy stuff. But so that's sort of the quick version of how we got to where we are today.
And I've heard you talk before that, the whole aspect of everything in the music business, from like booking to, obviously you're a performer, but I think one of the important things for you is knowing how all of it works together, right? You kind of have to know that,
Yeah.
being a part of the group that you're in now.
Yeah, about like 12 years ago, I started my own production company. So we do staging, lighting, and sound for live events, festivals, stuff like that. Obviously, we do all the Spazmatics stuff. We do a lot of weddings, corporate events. So, yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in all of it, from how the lights work to how the sound works to, I've booked my own tours, probably 3 different tours, and I would call and pretend that I was one person, that I was my manager. And then, when I would show up, I was Zack, and when I would call, I was Liam. And so just in case if anything went awry, they'd be like, "You're manager, that Liam guy, he really pissed me off." I'd be like, "Oh, sorry about that, he's kind of a douche, but whatever." So just a little trick I learned. But yeah, so I've definitely been interested in everything that sort of surrounds that world. I've written my own musical, and I'm sort of in the process of writing another one, because again, musicals is sort of like, that's like home base for me, I think. So that's really what I'm interested in. And so, yeah, I like the idea of writing the dialogue, writing the music, the comedy, all those different aspects too. And so even that's a different world, but yeah, they're all interconnected, and I find them all pretty interesting. Yeah.
So you were saying earlier you used to do theater, or you started in theater. You've kind of done everything that comes with the music world. So when you're performing with the Spazmatics, you're able to kind of do all that stuff. You're able to bring your theater, kind of background in, and then you're able to bring your musicality. What is it that you enjoy the most about being a part of the Spazmatics, especially with the rest of the band members? Because while it is kind of kitsch, and yes, it's 80s music, you all are all trained musicians, and by watching and hearing you can tell you obviously have a lot of years behind you in, performance, and your talent kind of shows that.
Yeah, I think when we get together, sort of the idea is, if we're adding a new song to the show, when we get together, we don't work on the music. We just assume everyone knows the music and is going to have that down, and the guitar solo is going to be perfect. And we might work on like the arrangement of how we're doing it. Like we might, Sweet Child of Mine has 3 guitar solos. That's not necessary. We'll cut out one of those, and some quadruple chorus. We'll cut some of that out just to save room for doing other songs. But yeah, so when we get together and we come up with ideas, we're coming up with like what would be a fun move to do, or we'll watch like, if we're doing Video Killed the Radio Star, we'll watch the video and find some elements from the video, or Safety Dance, we'll find some elements, where they're doing this type of deal. And so we try and throw it in and be authentic, but we also want to have our fingerprints all over it. So that's one of the things that I like about it is, when you have a blank canvas with no direction and an infinite amount of possibilities, it's almost hard to get started on what you're going to do. But if you're sitting down, you're going, it's the Spazmatics, you're nerds that rock, you do the 80s, like, go. Then having a little bit more direction, even though there's like a sort of a path we have to follow, we can still add a lot of elements, that are unique to us, to create it. So having some sort of central direction of where we're going and who we are and what we're about, then I think it actually helps the creativity, because then you can kind of stay in that world, and it's a lot of fun. Some things work, some things don't really work. Like I said, I watch a lot of stand-up comedy, so I love the idea of writing a bunch of bits, and you're laying it in bed late at night, and you're like, oh, this will kill, and then you go do it, and like maybe it kills for some people, and for other people it doesn't really kill, and then you know, some stuff works really well, and then other guys would be like, oh, it would be funny if I added this to that, and then, you know, that's how a lot of it's born, and so it works really well.
Is it hard to shift out of that mode when you go into your, you know, your own music, writing your own music? I was going to ask because I would imagine you said for the last 15 years you've been, you know, you have this formula, right? Even though you do change things with the shows and you add songs, it is kind of according to a certain kind of formula. You have 80s music and you do your stand-up. How hard is it to shift into like Zack Weber world where it's your music, which is very different from, as you said, what you perform, you know, with the Spazmatics?
Yeah, it's like playing a character. Again, coming from musical theater, you know, if you're on Broadway and you're playing a role, and that show stays on Broadway for several years, and you're playing the same part, and you're doing it 5 nights a week, then the lines do sort of become blurred. I know that like whenever, even if I'm with family or friends and we're taking a picture, I'm so used to like posing ridiculously when you're taking, you know, putting bunny ears on people or, you know, just doing stupid faces that, you know, some of that's natural. And I have found too, there's been times where I've gone to see a friend play and they call me up on stage to play something, and I almost feel like it's necessary to like do the Zeke thing, which is my stage name, and apparently there's a voice that goes with it. If I try and do the Zeke voice right now, I can't.
You have to be in your element.
Yeah, because people will be like, oh, do the voice you do, and I'll try and do it. They're like, that's not the voice, and I'll be sitting there trying forever, and then as soon as I get up on stage, I'll do it, and I'm like, I don't know what the disconnect is there, but. Yeah, so we went on a cruise, me, my dad, and my uncle. And my dad and my uncle were like, it'd be funny because they had a karaoke competition that for like 2 weeks, and they're like, it'd be funny if you did the karaoke competition. And they're like, you know, we'll get back from our excursions, and then we want to sit and have a drink and watch you perform for the boat, you know. And if you win, you move on to the next day. And you know, spoiler, I went through the whole thing and I won the whole thing. But so I was singing every single day, and then they brought in a band, and then they're like, okay, now you have to rehearse with the band. I'm like, I'm rehearsing with the band on my vacation on this cruise? Like, this is crazy. But it was fun. But going back and looking at those videos, I've even had friends be like, you're doing like Zeke stuff while you're up there. And it's like, I know, I don't know how, like, it's just, you know, when you play 250 shows a year for over a decade, you know, it gets a little difficult to snap out of it, which is one of the reasons why this record that I'm doing now is more loungy, jazzy type of stuff, because you know, that's all the stuff I've been into. I grew up like, you know, that game where it's like, if you could only listen to one artist, you know, if you're on a deserted island and you can only, you know, my answer is always Bill Withers. I love Bill Withers because it's funky, but it can also be like, you know, mellow and chill. And so, yeah, so it'll be kind of that. And it's not like I can't do it, but it takes me a second. You know, I'll go practice or rehearse, or, you know, it takes me about a song before the Zeke flushes out, and then I'm back to like my authentic self again. Not that Zeke's not authentic, I created it, but still, it's like this own
its own thing.
Yeah, universe. But, and I wanted to mention too, because I know that your show also centers around
horror and
all that. So Speakeasy, the place that we play every single Wednesday in Austin, is also part of the Haunted Austin tour.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think in like, what was it, the 1920s or something, the building lit on fire, and sadly some people died in it. But my buddy who's the GM, they have like cameras up at night, and after they lock up, and they'll see mysterious things happening, and you know.
Have they ever had paranormal investigators come here? Because that would be pretty awesome.
I think they probably have. Yeah. I mean, that if you're looking for podcast ideas one day, you could come do that, or even do the Haunted Austin tour, which is a tour that I did one time. It was really cool. They take you around in a hearse.
Yeah.
And you go to all these different places. But so just a little side note.
That's awesome. In terms of stories with, I mean, do you have groupies that kind of follow y'all around everywhere? What are some funny kind of interactions that you've had with audience members? I've heard you kind of talking about, at the gym, of some of the things that you've dealt with, like behind the scenes, but is there anything that stands out when it comes to audience interaction for you? Because I would imagine people have probably a preconceived notion of who you are, which is very separate from you.
Well, it's sort of the Clark Kent thing. The costume's not too different. There's just a neck brace and a pair of glasses, and my clothes and stuff. But it's funny, there will be times where I'll get to the show early and I'll be helping set up and people will come up and they'll be like, do you know when the band's gonna get here? And it's just like, or people are always just like, God, you look so different. It's like you just take off a neck brace and glasses and suddenly people are like, where did the other guy go? You've never been seen in the room together. So it is kind of wild. So there have been times, at various times when, one funny thing that popped into my head was, being on dating apps and stuff. And, this current generation, everybody's sort of nonchalant and everything. And there's been probably 3 different times where I was sort of talking and it was fizzling out. And then a couple of weeks would go by and you wouldn't hear anything. And then you get a random text that's, wait a minute, are you the singer for the Spazmatics? And it's like, yeah. And they're like, oh, and then I dated that girl for 5 years.
So it's helped your dating life.
I guess.
Yeah.
Who knew? So there's that. But yeah, we have residencies that we play, residencies based like Speakeasy is a residency we play here every week. This is the only weekly residency, but we have monthly residencies like Brewster Street in Corpus Christi, Lava Cantina up in the Dallas area. Technically, it's in the Colony, Texas. We play Scout Bar out in Houston. So we have a bunch of different residencies, whether it's monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly or something like that, or even yearly. And so those shows we'll see a lot of the same faces. One of the things that I've always said that was kind of interesting is we'll play weddings, and when you get there to the wedding and stuff and you're talking about the couple who's getting married and they're like, oh, we met at your all's weekly Wednesday show at Speakeasy, and so we're like, it would be perfect to have you there, and the groom would be like, yeah, I heard that y'all's shows on Wednesdays was a great place to meet girls, so I came out and blah blah blah, and then there she was, and so it's kind of fun to be like a footnote in people's lives like that. Yeah, we have a couple of fan clubs: the Spazmatics, the Spaz Addicts, the Spaz Fanatics, and there's people. There's this group that comes to our shows in Houston, and when we first started to meet them, they had like a younger son, and so it's funny to think that there's like pictures of this kid sitting propped up on my knee, and we're making a goofy face, and then like however many years you blink and it goes by and it's like, oh yeah, they're going off to A&M next year, and it's just like, what, they're in college? So it's weird, I would say a lot of our fans are, a lot of our regulars slowly just become a footnote in your life as well too. So it's actually a pretty special thing. So that's something that I really enjoy. There's a lot of crazy stories. I don't know that I can think of any in particular, but that might be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that would be a whole other episode. Is there something that you've done a lot of different things in the music industry? You talked about being part of Disney. You toured early on with Maroon 5, and who's the other you toured with?
John
Mayer.
Yeah, I did the John Mayer Maroon 5 tour. That was like my first, that was my introduction to that type of world. There's a few dates on a particular tour, but.
So you said you'll be working on your new album, but is there anything that you haven't done yet in your career that you would like to tackle, you know, aside from Spazmatics, but like your own thing, whether that's acting, music?
Yeah, I would love to get into acting. It's you know, again, not just theater. I've never done like film. Never. I mean, I've been in like some commercials and stuff, but even in the commercials, I was singing and stuff like that. So, or you know, was writing the music for it. But I've never been in film. That's something that I think I would really love to do. It might be emotionally draining, possibly. This band is physically draining because we're constantly on the road. I mean, the last 2 weeks, I probably spent 8 hours a day in a car, 6 days a week, you know, just driving to different places. And then you get to the break room and then you're sitting and waiting. There's a lot of sitting. So I can't wait to actually get out on stage and do what I'm supposed to be doing. But, you know, so there's that. I told you that I wrote a musical before, but sadly, the person that I was working on the musical with, as soon as it was about done, he passed away. Oh. You know, I would love to finish one and actually see it. You know, I would love to sit and watch a musical. I'd probably star in it, I guess, too. But you know, at some point, do a whole production of a musical that I've written. So acting and writing, basically, yeah.
And where do you see the Spazmatics going? I mean, like you said, 200 plus shows a year. You're out there, you're doing it, you're busy. Is there anything in the band that you'd like to do, like different, or anything that you'd want to add?
No, I mean, you know, we've kept this band rolling for over 21 years, and so I think that's you know, that's sort of a badge of honor. I think, you know, and so I'd just like to, you know, in a way, I wouldn't mind, you know, 20 years from now, still doing it and still having the level of success or more that we've had, and you know, just sort of being just really ingrained as like one of those Austin or Texas sort of staples and stuff. You know, with as far as the Spazmatics goes, but I mean, we've played, you know, the halftime at the Texans game in front of 70,000 people, and we've done a lot of things. We've played presidential inaugurations, and we've opened for, you know, lots of different groups, Joan Jett and this and that. So there's been a lot of fun things that we do in this band, and again, it's sort of just like a family, and especially when you go out and you see some of the regulars. So it does feel like home. However, it's so exhausting, and it's so much that, you know, I do sort of sit and feel like some of my other passions just like being pushed back and back. So there might come a day where, you know, we take a bit of a hiatus, or at least I do, or something like that for a little bit, just to pursue something else for a moment of time. But I think Spazmatics feels a lot like home in a lot of ways. So.
And when can we look forward to your album coming out? I know that you're in the process. It's going to be a while, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, you know, could be. It's something that I'm gonna start, you know, putting my nose to the grind, or is that an expression? And working on for the remainder of the year. So, you know, could be in all likelihood probably like the beginning of next year or something like that. You know, it'll probably take me some time. If we have 3 days off, I'll probably spend the first one of it going, ugh, and then the second two recording, yeah, something like that.
Because it's also a process, writing and all of that, right?
I think most of the music is written. Actually, it's just a matter of, you know, performance. Like, you know, you'll get like vocal fry and you'll be tired, and, you know, you'll have things to attend to, like Francois.
Yeah. Francois, by the way, is his dog.
My Pomsky, Francois.
Yes.
He's 3/4 Pomeranian, 1/4 Siberian Husky. He's a good boy. But yeah, and then, going on vacation, seeing family, just other things that I'm passionate about, the gym and basketball, stuff like that. So squeezing it in, it's just a matter of doing it, making the time, and then doing it. So I'll get there.
People want to learn more about the Spazmatics. Where can they find you on social? Where can they?
Our social media is the Spazmatics Texas, THESPAZMATICS, Texas. So yeah, Instagram, Facebook. We post all our shows. We pin it to the top. So we play all over Texas. So no matter where you're listening to this, you'll have an opportunity to come see us.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
I can't think of anything. Maybe just thank you for having me.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
like I said before, if you ever need a co-host, guest co-host, let me know. So I did radio before, and so I would love to. I love stuff like this. I think it's great, and I think it's cool that you do what you do. That's how we got to
that's how
become
we
friends.
connected,
Well,
yeah.
that and Francois and
Yeah.
the gym. But I'm just glad that we made this happen finally. So.
Well, thank you, Zack, for coming on the show. And again, if you want to learn more about the Spazmatics, you can visit their social media channels. And that's all we have for the Marino Show. We'll see you next time.